Hi, Tim here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about 3 vintage toys, which are a lot of fun for the kids to play with, and something that doesn't take a lot of investment of tools or time. You can use a utility knife or a whittling knife like this here. I just love sitting by a campfire and whittling. It's one of my favorite pastimes, just with a good fire, and if you don't like what you're making, you can burn it, so throw it away. We're going to start with what I've called a bull roarer toy, and you cut off a little piece of log like this birch piece here. The one thing I'm finding though with these is that maybe you want to take the bark off, and you can do that with a knife, and the best that you can just to round it up, and it makes it spin. You just kind of do it by eye, but it makes it spin a little easier. So you got something basically round, and it's a good idea if you can. You don't have to use this centering device, but I use this for lathe work here to make sure you got your center kind of mapped out here, so you know approximately where to put your holes. If it's too far off balance, then it won't spin. So I just go maybe a ½ inch apart or so. So I'm going to clamp that down, and then use just simple drill here. And the other hole. This stuff I got from a craft store. It's actually for crochet. It's strong enough. I think it's for like a needle point or something like that. But it was cheap enough, and it's flexible, so it's not stiff like other string that maybe you'd. I mean, different string holds up, and this is held up pretty well. But if you use something like fishing line or something that holds up real good, it's not going to be flexible enough. And these aren't really designed to last too long. Anyway, so I got my holes. I got to make sure they got clearance there. That's all there is to it. Just put your string in here like this, and string it up, tie it. Actually, I got one already made up here. This has got the bark on it still, and you'll see what I mean. If the bark is on it, then it doesn't seem to want to spin balanced, but you get the idea, just back and forth. So if you get them spinning good, they'll make a noise, and I've called them bull roars. Well, I don't think that's the proper term for it, but just back and forth like that, just very simple. So that's one simple toy. And like I said, just make it as round as possible, and if it's uneven, it kind of makes more of a whistling noise when it spins. The next thing that I have a lot of fun doing, is probably my favorite thing to do, is a wooden propeller. Now for this tool here, I could use that little crank drill, but I decided to speed it up with a power drill. This is a 15/64, so it's a little under a ¼ inch hole, because we're going to be putting a ¼ inch dowel rod in here. You know, need it to be tight. I'm going to cut this off at about 10 inches. Now when you're doing a propeller, you want to go from corner. You can see this here, from corner to corner. You don't touch these edges, this edge or this edge. Turn it around, same thing here, this edge or this edge down here. But all this side and all this side, see it on the angle here. So that's where it needs to grab the air to spin up if you go like this here. So let's just start, and this is just a lot of fun, because if you got a bunch of people doing this, you can have contests on how far and how high and so forth. So now I'm getting this down. This particular knife here I really like. It's called a flex cut. It's a roughing out knife. It's a very multi-purpose whittling knife. What I'm carving here is white pine. So I'm using my thumb as a fulcrum and keeping it away from myself here so I don't cut myself. And probably the thinnest I want to go is about a 1/16 of an inch along the bottom edge there. Again, it's just this one action of using your thumb as a fulcrum and kind of pushing it. And it's fairly safe if your knife is sharp. All right, you see what I've done here so far? And now I've got to do the other side. Same thing. All right, I come down the home stretch here. And the blade is a little rough textured. You can see the side here. You want to leave that hub area alone. And I've neglected to mention at the start that that hole's got to be in the very middle. You don't want it off to one side. Now I'm just going to whittle off the corners just a little bit. A heavier wood like maple or oak or something like that will have more weight and it'll spin faster, but it's harder to carve. So almost any wood will work. Since I made an undersized hole, I just got to whittle this down a little bit on the top here because you want a tight fit. So I'm just shaving this down like I would a pencil. That's the sound of being tight. So there we go. Give it a try. Hit the ceiling. So that's the propeller, and I have a lot of fun with that. Next thing is a ball and cup, and I've got several here. This one I've made probably, I don't know, 40 years ago, I guess, is turn on the lathe. As this one is turn on the lathe too. This is a wood ball, but I dyed it black. Yeah, I think it's birch or something like that, or maple. And this is a maple cup. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos about turning cookie presses or turning the vases, that are little bud vase, this is the same material. But another thing is, if you don't have a lathe, let's say you don't have a lathe and you want to make one of these things, there's a couple options you got. Now, what I've been using lately is a plastic ball, and I got this at a surplus store, and it's actually like a foosball. So a foosball, you can buy these in like packs of 12 or something like that. I think I've seen them online for that. So foosball is about 1.25 inch diameter. They range in size from 1.25 inch up to I think 1.5 inch. So I have one here that I put in a clamp. The only thing you got to do is put a hole in it, and so I'll do that in a minute here to put the string in. But that's just an alternative, and you really can't tell the difference between it. So other than the fact that this ball is not turned, it's manufactured, it's a lot quicker to use. The challenging part of it is how do you get this kind of a hole in here, scooped in like that, so a round bottom hole. And in my video on modifying speedboard bits, I talk about this and how I modify that to go in here. I've not had success in hand drilling or using drilling this freehand with a drill, because it tends to jump around. So I would probably, if you didn't want to do this, somehow you can either scoop it out with it's not going to be very easy with a straight knife here, but you could do it. You could just drill straight in with a regular drill bit and have a square bottom, flat bottom hole. And I pre-drilled that, so everything else is going to be handwork. And if you just wanted to leave it rustic and just leave it like this, you could do that. I did this pine one and whittled it all down so it looks kind of like primitive. So here I'm taking the bark off, and again I'm using this technique of pushing against my thumb like this here. So now I'm planting my thumb and pulling it this way here, kind of mindful. So it's this action here. You're not free-handing it toward you so that you slip and cut yourself. Now here's where it's a little trickier. I'm cutting it towards myself. Again, plant your thumb down so you've got control of your tool, and just cut down and shape it, and you can cut in somewhere below where the bottom of your hole is. I like that kind of tulip part here. Now I'm going to switch over to this one here. So that's just initially how you rough it out, and you continue on down. Now when I did this here, I kind of recreated what I do on the lathe with these, and I'm pretty much done with this one here, but I'm just doing a final touch. And I kind of like this little bead here right there so that it's easier to tie your string and it doesn't slide down the handle, because the more you play with these things, you're going to wear the string out. Let's show you how to attach the ball. And again, we got to drill a hole. This is a 3/32 size drill bit for my application. Now what I do, since it takes two hands to hold this, I have these small little hand screw clamps. These I find really useful just to hold workpiece in. Now there's a little divot on these foosball things that I use as my center. So I drill in probably 3/4 of an inch or so. I got a little hole like that. I take this string, and I like this product here, this E6000. And so I just wet the end of that string with this stuff here to make it stiff. And this will adhere to plastics. All right, so now I go put that in the hole. Kind of point it a little bit here. And then I follow that up with a toothpick. Just clip it off a little bit, and that kind of takes some, got some here spilled out. And fill that hole with that. And that should be good to go. Now I don't know how long of a string is normal on this. You don't want it too long that's gonna injure somebody if it swings too far out. We go, we'll tie this down. Here we go. Here's ball and cup. I'm glad you can edit this. That took me a while. I got there. I'm out of practice. So there's our 3 vintage toys. The bull roar, the propeller, and the ball and cup. So have fun with making this, and I'll see you around the campfire. Till next time.